Peace and power and elevation be to everybody out there. What's going on? What's happening? It's your girl Tiffany here live in effect. And I want to say Ramadan Mubarak to everybody. For those of you that celebrate Ramadan, I hope you guys have a good Ramadan so far. Also, I want to say greetings to everybody else. I know some of you might be at work, some of you might be at home chilling, whatever you're doing. But I think this topic is very important that we really need to focus on, right? Because there's so much of this, it's so much of this that's going on, right? Um, so before I could really get into the topic, let's play a video clip of an incident that just took place, that just happened in DeKalb County, Georgia. All right, so I just want to go there because I want to show you why I am speaking on this subject matter. So, okay. All right, so this came from Fox 11. I mean, Channel 11. Sorry about that. The news channel. So as y'all may heard, or some of you may not know that Eligio Bishop, also known as Nature Boy, aka Nature Ho. That's why I call him Nature Ho. Excuse my language. He has a group that would start off as Melon Nation, then they became Carbon Nation, right? So you guys know this man been on the run for some years now, for like 5 or 6 years. He done went to South America, tried to stay in Costa Rica. They kicked him out of Costa Rica and told him, you can't come here because your visa done expired, etc. Then you remember he got kicked off the plane because he was smelling bad, he was funky. Then he done went through several arrests. Now, a little bit about this man's background. They say that he used to cut hair. He used to what else he used to do? He used to cut hair. He used to be a stripper. He used to be a porn star at one point or something. So that was his background. But yeah, he started this Melon Nation thing, and he started recruiting people, and so it turned into a cult. Okay, so it was supposed to be about in tune with nature, being connected with nature, but his ultimate goal was to bring about some type of power and control over a group of people, right? And to make profit. Now, cults are nothing new, okay? Cults are nothing new. Cults been around for a long time. And let me just say this on the record. Cults don't necessarily have to be religious. They could be political organization. They could be social organization. They don't always got to be religious, all right? However, it's very common amongst those who practice religion because it's easier for them to get away with using religion ideology. But cults happen amongst any type of movement, whether it be social, political, or religious movement, whatever. It's always going to take place. So let me go ahead and play this video real fast so y'all get the idea of what's really going on.
Say Eligio Bishop at.
Let me start again.
New tonight, an accused cult leader denied bond today in DeKalb County as he faces charges of rape and false imprisonment too.
Police say Eligio Bishop and his followers that they have taken over a home just outside Decatur. But the allegations against him and his group go far beyond that. We have team coverage tonight, starting with Joe Ripley live at the DeKalb County Police Department.
Yeah, good evening, Jeff and Chiba. And it was earlier today when we saw Eligio Bishop appear before a judge for the first time since being arrested earlier this week at that DeKalb County home on charges of rape, false imprisonment, as well as a host of other charges. Police say they were tipped off from Bishop's social media posts. I'll show you a picture of that house now. Police arrested him here at this home in the neighborhood in DeKalb County. I spoke with a member of Carbon Nation. This is the group that Bishop heads. He calls himself, this member, Captain Ace. Ace says the group has millions of followers worldwide and focuses on leading a life of principles and morals. Ace says 14 people stay at that home, professing themselves as Bishop's disciples. He has been with the group about 4 years, says he met Bishop through social media, and tells me Bishop's post resonated with him. Ace refers to his leader as, quote, God, and denied the allegations he faces, calling his leader's arrest one of the most troubling experiences he's ever had.
In my mind, he's not locked up. In my mind, I keep the thought frequency that he is free. And because I know that where my attention goes, that's what my reality will support.
You hear the word cult. Obviously, in this day and age, you definitely want to do research as to what is going on.
That is Patrick Henderson, a father. You can tell just from his comments, he's very disturbed, concerned by these allegations as well as this group living down the street from him. He says if you see anything suspicious in your neighborhood, make sure you do your research and report it if it rises to that level of criminality. As for Bishop, he's going to remain in the DeKalb County Jail until Superior Court sets a new court date for him.
All right, Joe. And before Bishop's arrest this week, we uncovered the alleged cult leader had a long history of problems with the law, and he has a big following on social media. Investigator Andy Parati joins us now with more.
Hey, Sheba, he calls himself Bishop, Nature Boy, Christ. Those are just some of the aliases he's used over the past few years, all linked to his religious group with a history of problems in multiple countries.
He thinks he's not locked up, but we are in a state of hell.
This is video of 38-year-old Eligio Bishop posted on his YouTube channel, The Three God TV. It has more than 90,000 subscribers, where he regularly refers to himself as the Messiah and the Christ.
I'm the return of Christ.
He's lived in Georgia on and off since at least 2006 and is a former licensed barber. For years, social media posts and news reports show he and his followers bounced around South America, including Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and Panama, adding content to his prolific social media activity on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
Because they keep calling the cops over here and I'm tired of
We found hundreds of videos and posts, many laced with profanity and rants about the world.
being God is not nice.
In 2017, he was accused of keeping a Canadian woman as part of his followers in Costa Rica. Bishop told the Canadian CBC news outlet that the woman was free to leave at any time.
Outstanding.
He was sentenced to 90 days in jail, and then he and about 20 members of the group were forced out of Hawaii for breaking COVID-19 quarantine in 2020.
According to court records, Bishop has been sued twice for failure to pay rent, property damage, and was divorced in 2013. We have much more about this man and his wild history in this story on 11alive.com.
I discovered the 8 immortal kings of Samaria.
Okay, so I hope you guys heard that, right? This man been on the loose since 2009. This man been on the loose for not paying his rent. Okay, he been sued for that. He done held a Canadian woman hostage. And the main thing he say is you free to leave, she free to go. This man been on the loose. This man been in multiple South American countries, got kicked out of Hawaii because he wasn't following the quarantine rules. And just recently, this guy was on Side Negro channel. He was on Side Negro channel, professing that he's God, he was the Messiah Christ, and he got some transgender woman, making her into a queen or whatever, making him into a queen. I mean, it's very. Then it's the same man that done had his son playing with his private area. And then having sexual intercourse with his mother while she's breastfeeding him. If you don't think that's strange behavior, then what do you call that? Do you think that's an unacceptable behavior? First and foremost, why is you even having intercourse with a woman that is nursing while she's nursing her child? That's not something you do. And why would you even allow your child to touch your private area? Y'all should have known there was something wrong with this man. But I'm inspired to talk about this. I'm going to play another video. I'm going to play one more video, and then I'm going to get into the subject at hand. Okay? Let me play one more video. Let me play let me play this video right here. All right, so this video comes from a woman that was a former member. Okay, she was one of the former members of Melton Nation, and they said she joined in 2006. So he's been having this thing going on since 2006. Hold on, here's the lady.
Tonight, an accused cult leader is in jail facing several charges. His name is Eligio Bishop, but he's known as Nature Boy. According to DeKalb County jail records, he's charged with rape, false imprisonment, and sending sexually explicit messages without the consent of the person in the picture. Bishop and the followers of the Carbon Nation cult have a reported history dating back several years. New tonight at 11, a former member is speaking to Paula Suro about the time with the group, and Paula is joining us live from the DeKalb County jail where Bishop is being held right now.
Yeah, Jennifer, Erica Carroll tells me she is glad Bishop is behind bars tonight. She tells me she believes that him being in jail is only going to help open the eyes to the current members of Carbon Nation. What would you call it? A group? A cult? Would you call it a cult?
I call it a cult now, yes. Yes, I do.
A Facebook post convinced Erica Carroll to move from New York to Honduras in 2006 to embark on a life-changing experience, one where she was told she'd be able to build a new community, eat vegan food, and be in touch with nature.
It was just in a place in my life where I was just searching for some spiritual truth.
The group back then was known as Melanation. Carol says it was led by Eligio Bishop, who went by Nature Boy. She says all 9 of them were forced to sleep in tents, use restrooms outside, and attend long meetings to, quote, face your demons.
It was a lot of verbal and mental abuse.
But after 1 year, what got her to leave was when she says she witnessed Bishop hit his girlfriend at the time.
He slapped her up and punched her a couple of times, and then he told her to go in the tent and give him oral sex. So that was the breaking point for me.
But walking away, she realized, was easier than going back home.
I had to check myself into a couple of hospitals and get my mind right. I was seeing spirits. I'm not gonna lie, you know what I'm saying? Like I was going through a lot, and it was all connected to him though.
Carol says since leaving in 2007, the cult, now known as Carbon Nation, turned more abusive and sexual. She says for some, it wasn't as easy to leave.
He has the women fighting each other. He's put his hand on the men. He always said that he wanted like a lot of wives. Like he wanted, 10 wives.
He's had a history of charges before his arrest this week. Carol remembers being in Costa Rica when she says he was accused of kidnapping a Canadian woman who was staying with them. Now, Carol tells me she has been in touch with Bishop since leaving the cult in 2007. She tells me she even had a feeling he was going to get arrested soon and texted him just days ago telling him, "Your days are numbered." Jennifer?
Well, Paula, thank you so much for that update. Like we have said, this investigation into
Now, this is a woman that been knowing him since 2006. So even then, he had a cult already. But it didn't come into the limelight till, 4 years later? 5 years later? Now, some of us may have been friends with this guy on Facebook. I know I have, but I didn't know anything about him. I knew that face was familiar. I knew I remember having some conversation with him, but I never knew that he had a cult until I seen him one day on the YouTube channel and doing all his belligerent stuff and talking very strange. I said, wait, this is the same guy that I was friends with on Facebook. And I'm quite sure many others was friends with him. It just, it's just really strange. This is why I'm gonna tell you guys this. If anybody come up to you with their gods, that they are the God Almighty, they saviors, they're messengers, or they're coming to save humanity, run the other way. Get away. Run the other way. It's time to run the other way. Run the other way. Because 9 times out of 10, they're running a cult. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm about to say some things that might be offensive to others out there. Even your earliest form of your religion that you practice, right? People argue that Abrahamic religion are cult-like, and that is true in some cases. There's truth to it. There's truth to it. I mean, I wouldn't deny that there would the Abrahamic religion that we know of had cult-like members or cult-like leaders. Okay. You see what I'm saying? But now those leaders are no longer here. So it's like people can be free to go in and out of them when they want to. Now, it's certain members that might take what those originators of those religious organization, they might flip it around and create their own narrative behind it just so they can gain following. Right? So this ain't just go for carbonation. There's so many of them. And this ain't just Nawapian Nation either. Okay? If you want to get technical, you can talk about the Nation of Islam. They operated as a cult from the very beginning. Okay? A certain group of people who call themselves being 5%, some of them operate from a cult mindset. Certain group of people who call themselves being Moors, they operate from a cult mindset. The list goes on and on and on. And, you see a lot of cultish behavior within what you call the conscious community. You see a lot of that. Not just from the religion practitioners, but those who are so-called political activists, those who are so-called social activists. You see that there are those who have the cult-like mentality. And they're only doing it for their own personal gain, their own personal purpose. Let me see. Let me read this. Just like that guy in New York that shot people in the subway, there are quite a few that become radicalized on YouTube. And unfortunately, there are a lot of black men in these groups. Yes. And I heard about the man that shot the people up there in New York. So it come to find out that man's supposed to be one of the foundational Black America organization or whatever. That's what I heard. That I heard the man that was supposed to be a radical group. He was supposed to belong to the Tariq Nasheed group. That's what I was told. But yeah, I mean, that's a tragic situation. But yeah, a lot of times you will see a lot of our brothers and sisters that join into this. And the ones that get involved with this are the ones that are very gullible and they very vulnerable. And they looking to be belonging to somewhere or be a part of some type of group. They looking to be belong. So they'll go to anybody and anybody they gravitate to, as long as they can say those words that they've been thinking, then they feel like, oh, this is where I'm gonna go. See, it's a very tricky thing. You have to be careful how they do it. You better be careful how they do these things, right? So they know how to get attention. They know how to say part of the truth and the other half of the truth. As a matter of fact, I'll be right back. Yeah, they just know, leaving where I left off. But this is what they do. They know who to gravitate and what words to say. They know how to romanticize things. And if they can say something that touches or that nourishes your soul, then that's where you fall in line. So a lot of them know how to use a gift of gab. They know how to use the gift of gab. They know how to get people. All right. And I keep telling people, for educational purpose only, read this book, The 48 Laws of Power. You got to read this book. And this book talks about manipulation, but it shows you how these so-called leaders, right, get in these positions of power and what they do, what type of tactic they use. All right. It's a long book. It's a lengthy book, but read it. And this book right here, also written by Robert Greene, which is called The Laws of Human Nature. Okay, it's kind of distorted, but here it is, the title, Laws of Human Nature. All right. So the Laws of Human Nature talks about human behavior, psychological behavior, social behavior, and all. But this goes into how people go about implementing power. Okay, how they go about implementing power over a group of people, and what steps you got to take to get those type of power. All right. So when you read a book like this is like the earliest form of Machiavelli, which I have that book as well, The Prince. So if you guys haven't read that book, The Prince, you should read it. The Prince Machiavelli book, right? This is like the modern version of Machiavelli. Okay, let's just put it like that. This is like a modern version of it. But I'm going over some of the materials out this book. Okay, but I just wanted to talk about that because it's like people need to really know what they getting involved into. And this is why people need to start researching and challenging, question these folks. Anytime somebody tell you are not allowed to ask questions as far as like their teachings or whatever they doing, then you don't need to be bothered with them. You need to get the hell away. Because these folks looking to get hustle out of you, and they looking to control you. Because that's what makes them feel powerful. See, Eligio, Nature Boy, Nature Ho, he wants to be like Dr. York. Okay, he wants to be like Elijah Muhammad and Noble Drew Ali and all the rest of them. That's what he wants to be like. He wants to be able to have that type of power. But you see that it didn't last him very long. He thought that he was untouchable and nobody could catch up with him and his foolery. But he been proven wrong. Now all these things called, now he's in prison for rape and false imprisonment and other charges that goes along with it. This man ain't looking out to get out anytime soon. He did it to himself. He did it to himself. All right. Okay, so let's go into it. Let's look at the definition of cult. Okay, let's go into it. And we're going to go along together on this. All right, so check this out. It says in modern English, a cult is a social group that is defined by its unusual religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs, or its common interest in a particular personality, object, or goal. This sense of the term is controversial, having divergent definition both in popular culture and academia has also been an ongoing source of contention among scholars across several fields of study. The word cult is usually considered as pejorative. All right. An older sense of the word cult involves a set of religious devotional practices that are conventional within their culture, are related to a particular figure, and are often associated with a particular place. reference to the code of a particular Catholic. Excuse me, let me go back up. All right, so let me read that again. It says, an older sense of the word code involves a set of religious devotional practices that are conventional within their culture, are related to a particular figure, and are often associated with a particular place. References to the code of a particular Catholic saint or imperial code of ancient Rome, for example, use this sense of the word. All right, the literal and original sense of the word remains in the use in English language. A derived sense of excessive devotion arose in the 19th century. Beginning in the 1930s, cults became the object of sociological study in the context of the study of religious behavior. Since the 1940s, the Christian counter-cult movement has opposed some set and new religious movement labeled them cults because of their unorthodox belief. And since the 1970s, the secular anti-cult movement has opposed certain groups, and in reaction to acts of violence which have committed by some of their members, it has frequently charged them with practicing mind control. Scholars and the media have disputed some of the claims and action of anti-cult movement, leading to further public controversy. All right, so it says sociological classification of religious movement may identify a cult as a social group with social deviant or novel beliefs and practices. Although this is often unclear, other researchers present a less organized picture of cults, saying they arise spontaneously around novel beliefs and practices. Groups labeled as cults range in size from local groups with a few followers to international organizations with millions of adherents. Okay. Then it goes on to talk about new religious movement. Let's go down. A new religious movement is a religious community or spiritual group of modern origins since the mid-1800s, which has a peripheral place within its society's dominant religious culture. The NRMs can be novel in origin or part of a wider religion, in which case they are distinct from pre-existing denomination. In 1999, Elaine Barker estimated that NRMs, of which some but not all have been labeled as cults, number in tens of thousands worldwide, most of which originated in Asia or Africa, and that the great majority of which have only a few members. Some have thousands, and only very few have more than 1 million. In 2007, religious scholar Elijah Sigler commented that although no NRM had become the dominant faith in any country, many of the concepts which they had first introduced, often referred to as New Age ideas, have become part of worldwide mainstream culture. All right, so some people may argue that the word cult is misused. It's misused, is always associated with something negative, and that it does not always have to mean something negative. Some people will argue that. Some people say, well, it doesn't always mean negative things like you think. It doesn't always associate with something bad. Okay, it just means that, there's a new religious movement or a new age movement organization that create their own ideas, have their own principles synchronized or whatever. Okay, that's your argument. You can make that argument. But usually when we hear the word cults, right, we hear it in a way that is used in a negative sense. And usually most cults are negative. Okay, not all of them. But most of the time when we hear cults, we thinking something negative. We thinking something bad that's going on. That's a red flag. Okay. So some may argue that cult does not always mean something bad. But in this case, most of the time it does, and it becomes a red flag to people when they hear the word cult. All right. So when you think about cult, you thinking about Jim Jones, right? When you think about cult, you might think about Dr. Malachi York. When you think about cult, you might think about the earliest form of Jehovah's Witnesses. When you think about cult, you think about Nature Boy. And it's so many. When you think about cult, you think about some of these Hebrew Israelites organization out here. It's so many lists. It's so many lists. Then you ask yourself, you wonder why so many people just tap away from being in the so-called conscious community. Why so many people don't want to hear about the Black empowerment anymore? Because they realize that there's a lot of cultish behavior. That's why. That's why me and them don't want to hear it. But let's go ahead and continue. So I'm going to go ahead and make this real fast and quick. Okay. All right. So as you can see, As you can see, new religious movement, the church sect continuum, the sect, denomination, church, institutionalized sect, protest, equilibrium, etc. Okay. So now it goes down and talk about the scholarly studies. So let's look at the scholarly studies. Max Weber, sociologist Max Weber found that cults based on charismatic leadership often follow the rationalization of charisma. The concept of a cult as a sociological classification, however, was introduced in 1932 by American sociologist Howard Okay, so the concept of a cult as sociological classification, however, was introduced in 1932 by American sociologist Howard P. Becker as an expansion of German theologian Ernest Throtisch, or that's how you say Throtisch, church sect typology. Throtisch aim was to distinguish between the three main types of religious behavior: churchly, sectarian, and mystical. All right. It says Becker further bisected the Lothian first two categories. Church was split into ecclesia and denomination, and set into sect and cult. Like Lothian mystical religion, Becker's cult referred to small religious group that lacks in organization and emphasized the private nature of personal beliefs. All right. So later sociological formulation built on such characters, placing an additional emphasis on cults as deviant religious group, deriving their inspiration from outside of the predominant religious culture. All right. According to this sociological terminology, sects are products of religious schism and therefore maintain a continuity with traditional beliefs and practices, whereas cults arise spontaneously around novel beliefs and practices. Okay. All right. So let's go further down. So sociologist Ray Wallace argued that a cult is characterized by epistemological individualism, meaning that the cult has no clear locus of final authority beyond the individual members. Cults, according to Wallace, are generally described as oriented towards the problems of individual, loosely structured, tolerant, and non-exclusive, making few demands on members without possessing a clear distinction between members and non-members, having a rapid turnover of membership as being transient collectives with vague boundaries and fluctuating belief system. Wallace asserts that cults emerged from the cultic malo. All right, so there has been a lot of study on the terminology of cult, etc. So some argue that it be broken down into sect, right? Depending on denominations, and some believe that it deals with personal beliefs. Now, I can agree that some people misuse the concept of the word cult. Some people might, some people have a presumption that a particular organization or a particular spiritual group is cultish-like behavior because they don't understand the practices that's taking place, right? So there could be a misuse, there could be a misunderstanding. So a person that's looking from outside in, that's not within that culture or within that system or whatever, they might perceive that, oh, that's a cult-like community. So it can be falsely labeled as a cult, and it may not be necessarily that way. All right, so let me go ahead. Let's go further down. Okay, let's go further down. All right, so down here, where it says in 1978, Bruce Campbell noted that cults are associated with beliefs in a divine element in the individual. It is either soul, self, or true self. Cults are inherently ephemeral. All right, and what's this term ephemeral means? Ephemerality. Okay. So ephemerality is the concept of things being transitory, existing only briefly. Typically, the term ephemeral is used to describe objects found in nature, although it can describe a wide range of things, including human artifacts intentionally made to last for only a temporary period in order to increase their perceived aesthetic value. With respect to unique performances, for example, it has been noted that ephemerality is a quality caused by the ebb and flow of the crowd's concentration on the performance and a reflection of the nostalgic character of specific performances. Because different people may value the passage of time differently, the concept of ephemerality is a relative one, and there is no single definition for ephemerality. Okay, so that means that something that is used for temporary purposes, not something that meant to be last forever. That's what the terminology means. Okay. Whew. All right, so going back, so in 1978, Bruce Campbell noted that cults are associated with beliefs in a divine element in individual. It is either soul, self, or true self. Cults are inherently ephemeral and loosely organized. There is a major theme in many of the recent works that show the relationship between cults and mysticism. Campbell described cults as non-traditional religious group based on belief in a divine element in the individual. Brings two major types of such to attention: mystical and instrumental, dividing cults into either occult or metaphysical assembly. There is also a third type, the servant-oriented, as Campbell states, that the kinds of stable forms which involve in the development of religious organization will bear a significant relationship to content of the religious experience of the founders. All right. So again, this is scholarly studies on about different cults and whatnot, and how different scholars perceive the concept of cults. Okay. So right here, what it says, Dick Anthony, a forensic psychologist known for his criticism of brainwashing theory of conversion, has defended some of so-called cults, and in 1988 argued that involvement in such movement may often have beneficial rather than harmful effects, saying that there's a large research literature published in mainstream journals on the mental health effects of new religions. For the most part, the effects seem to be positive in any way that's measurable. Okay. Right. In their 1996 book, Theory of Religion, American sociologists Rodney Stark and William Sims Banbridge proposed that the formation of cults can be explained through the rational choice theory. All right, and I'm going to look into that in a moment. So in The Future of Religion, they commented that in the beginning, all religions are obscure, tiny, deviant cults movements. And I was mentioning that part earlier. According to Mark Galanter, professor of psychiatry at NYU, typical reasons why people join cults include a search for community and a spiritual quest. Stark and Banbridge, in discussing the process by which individuals join new religious group, have even questioned the utility of the concept of conversion, suggesting that affiliation is more useful concept. All right, so let's look at the rational choice theory. Let's go there real fast. So I know y'all wondering, well, Tiffany, why you keep going back and forth? Why you taking us here? Why you going through these articles? Why you reading these articles, et cetera, et cetera? Well, because this is what we have to break down. Excuse me. This is what we have to break down the understanding of the terminology and how it's being used. Okay, so there's been different scholarly studies behind the term cult and behind different organizations. People see that there's negativity behind it, and there's those who see the positive aspect of the new religious movement or new spiritual movement, new age movement, whatever. They see that. So, you know, you got different scholars and different researchers arguing different things. So some people feel like the term cult is being misused, and there's lack of understanding about certain groups out there and what their main objective and purpose is. And there's some misconception where some people might think this group is positive or they have a purpose or goal, but that's not really what their goals are. So there's just a conflict there. Okay. But as I mentioned before, when you hear the term cult, right, you hear it from a negative connotation. All right. That's what you hear it from. Ooh. Okay. So let's look at rational choice theory. Let's look at this for a moment. And then I'm getting ready to go ahead and close it out. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at that for a moment. Now, what is a rational choice theory? According to the information here on Wikipedia, rational choice theory refers to a set of guidelines that help understand economic and social behavior. The theory originated in the 18th century and can be traced back to political economist and philosopher Adam Smith. The theory postulates that an individual will perform a cost-benefit analysis to determine whether an option is right for them. It also suggests that an individual's self-driven rational action will help better the overall economy. Rational choice theories looks at three concepts: rational actors, self-interest, and the invisible hand. And then it goes on to say rationality can be used as an assumption for the behavior of individuals in a wide range of contexts outside of economic. It is also used in political science, sociology, and philosophy. All right. So here's the overview. The basic premises of rational choice theory is that the decision made by individual actors will collectively produce aggregated social behavior. The theory also assumes that individuals have preferences out of available choices or alternatives. These preferences are assumed to be complete and transitive. Completeness refers to the individual being able to say which of the option they prefer. Individuals prefer A over B, B over A, or are indifferent to both. Alternatively, transitivity is where the individual weakly prefers option A over B and weakly prefers option B over C, leading to the conclusion that the individuals weakly prefer A over C. The rational agent will then perform their own cost-benefit analysis using a variety of criterion to perform their self-determined best choices of action. All right. So, all right, so let's go further down. All right, going down, it says one version of rationality is instrumental rationality, which involves achieving a goal using the most effective method without reflecting on the worthiness of that goal. Duncan Sandel emphasizes that the goals are not restricted to self-regarding self or material interests. They also include other regarding altruistic as well as normative or ideal goals. Okay, so rational choice theory does not claim to describe the choices process, but rather it helps predict the outcome and pattern of choices. It consequently assume that individual is self-interest or being homo economicus. Here, the individual comes to a decision that maximizes personal advantage by balancing costs and benefits. Proponents of such models, particularly those associated with the Chicago School of Economics, do not claim that a model assumption are accurate description of reality, only that they help formulate clear and falsifiable hypotheses. In this view, the only way to judge the success of a hypothesis is empirical tests. To use an example from Melton Freeman, if a theory that says that the behavior of the leaves of a tree is explained by their rationality passes the empirical test, it is seen as successful. All right. Then it goes on to say, without explicitly dictating the goal or preferences of the individual, it may be impossible to empirically test or invalidate the rationality assumption. However, the prediction made by a specific version of the theory are testable. In recent years, the most prevalent version of rational choice theory, expected utility theory, has been challenged by the experimental result of behavioral economics. Economists are learning from other fields such as psychology and are enriching their theories of choice in order to get a more accurate view of human decision making. For example, the behavioral economics and experimental psychologist Daniel Kahneman won the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences in 2002 for his work in this field. Okay. So then, right where it says rational choice theory has proposed that there are two outcomes of two choices regarding human action. First, the feasible region will be chosen within all the possible and related action. Second, after the preferred option has been chosen, the feasible region that has been selected was picked based on restriction of financial, legal, social, physical, or emotional restriction that the agent is facing. After that, a choice will be made based on the preference order. Now, going down to where it says action, assumption, and individual preferences. Okay. It says the basic premises of rational choice theory is that the decision made by individual actors will collectively produce a aggregated social behavior. Thus, each individual make a decision based on their own preferences and the constraints they face. Rational choice theory can be viewed in different contexts. At individual level, the theory suggests that the agent will decide on the action or outcome they most prefer. If the action or outcomes are evaluated in terms of costs and benefits, the choice with the maximum net benefit will be chosen by the rational individual. Rational behavior is not solely driven by monetary gain, but also driven by emotional motives. Well, this is very educational to me. I'm very enlightened today. The theory can be applied to general settings outside of those identified by costs and benefits. In general, rational decision making entails choosing among all available alternatives. The alternative that the individual most prefer. The alternative can be a set of action, what to do, or a set of objects, what to choose/buy. In the case of action, what the individual really cares about are the outcomes that result from each possible action. Action in this case are only instrument for obtaining a particular outcome. So, not to go any further, but if you guys want to look up more about rational choice theory, you can check it out. So, basically, the rational choice theory concept dates back to Adam Smith. Okay, so but it also can be used in political science, sociology, and philosophy. All right. So basically, to break down rational choice theory, is that people make decisions based on what benefits them or the limited option they have available. So if you say for example, that you have chocolate cake and vanilla cake, right? You have a choice between choosing a chocolate cake, or you can choose a vanilla cake. If you choose a chocolate cake, that's your preference, that's your choice. But let's say there is nothing else available for you, and only thing that you have is the vanilla cake. Now, you can eat that vanilla cake, or you can have nothing at all. But these are the things that we're looking at in life circumstances. So people look at, well, what choice do I have that is going to work for me? So in a sense, I kind of understand now that I've read this about rational choice theory. I kind of understand that people are using rational choice theory because they're looking for spiritual guidance and understanding and something that connects with them emotionally, or they're looking for okay, sorry about that. So many of them weighing out their option. All right, so they're weighing out their option. They figure, well, what do I have available? And some of them say, well, I have a right to choose. I can prefer to be a part of this, or I can go over there, or I don't have to join anything. But if I don't join anything, then I will feel outcast. I wouldn't feel like I'm a part of anything. So I have to join something. So this group over here seemed more relatable to me because of my circumstances, what I'm going through, and being able to connect with those individuals that's in that group. So at the end of the day, it's not really about just connecting with the leaders. They're more so connected with the people that's a part of that group. So if they're connected with those that's a part of that group, that's one of the reasons why they join the group. Not just because the leaders, because if let's say they may have a close friend or close family that's a part of this cult, and they feel like, well, this cult has helped me out a lot. This organization has benefited me a lot, and I would suggest it for you. That person is going to probably take the word of their close friends or their relatives or their colleagues. They're going to take the words of those individuals before they even actually get a chance to meet the leader of that particular organization or movement or whatever. All right. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna read more into the rational choice theory. I'm gonna have to find a book on that because that seemed like this seemed like a very intriguing topic to me. Yeah, it's very intriguing. So I'm going to find a book that's dealing with rational choice theory, and then I'll be able to share it with you guys. But anyways, and speaking of books, I got some selected books that I want to share with you all. Okay, that's dealing with the topic in itself, cults. All right, so so this book right here. Oops. This book right here is called the Encyclopedia Handbook of Cults in America, okay, by J. Gordon Melton. Encyclopedia Handbooks of Cults in America by J. Gordon Melton. All right, so you guys can check it out at archive.org. That's the website, all right? Oops. Okay, and then you guys can also check out this book right here. This book is called Cults and New Religious Movement. All right, so this book is written by Lorne L. Dawson, or edited by Lorne L. Dawson. Okay, and this book came out in 2003. And then there's another book called Cults, Religion, and Violence by David G. Bromley and J. Gordon Melton. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'll just put some of this in the description link. All right. But yeah, that's all for the topic today. Okay, that's all for the subject matter. So yes, but these current movements that you see, the young Pharaoh type movements, the nature boy type movements out there, the polite movements, all these other movements, y'all get the hell away from them. Get away. Get away, because anybody that talk about they your Messiah, they your Savior, they your God, and they coming to teach save humanity and all that. You need to get away. Get away. Or if you're already in the organizations or in these particular organizations, start educating yourself. Start stepping outside the box. Start studying other things, okay? And start questioning things that's going on. Use your critical thinking, all right? Step outside the box. Do not be stuck in that box. Do not be stuck on that rudimentary level. Let that be your motivation to elevate you, to ascend you, to become better, all right? So when we start at our beginning point of knowledge, at the rudimentary level, we should not just be stuck there. We should be able to want to elevate. We should want to be able to grow. We want to be able to build ourselves and improve ourselves. That's what we should want to do. So these organizations should be like a stepping stone for us to be able to learn and be able to think outside the box and be able to have or gain some universal knowledge and not just be confined to that organization. Now, if that organization is doing something that's very beneficial for the people collectively, then that's a different story. But if it's not beneficial and it's only benefiting the leader and it's doing detriment to everyone else, then it's time to step outside that box. It's time to get away. It's time to get away. It's time to move on. It's really time to move on. You got to get away from that. All right. And this is one of the reasons why I just go so hard on stuff like this, because I really want people to, especially women, and I say that with emphasis, okay? I really want people, especially women, to really start studying various subjects on their own. It's nothing wrong with, if you want to join an organization, that's your choice, that's your prerogative. That's your prerogative. But study on your own. Study varies a subject. Compare and contrast. It's nothing wrong with going to college. If you want to go to school, to go to a university or get a trade, it's nothing wrong with that. Don't stop yourself from that. Don't limit yourself. It's nothing wrong with being an autodidact. It's nothing wrong with learning on your own. It's nothing wrong with learning from various people that may not be in the same culture as you or in your same community. It's nothing wrong from learning various group of people, okay? Do not just be stuck on a rudimentary level of thinking. Do not just be stuck there, because when you stuck there, then you're not expanding your horizon, and you don't want to just not expand your horizon. You don't want to be in that box, because that's when you start having a narrow mindset, and that's not where you want to be. Okay, that's not a good thing. That's not a healthy thing. All right, and you don't want to be overly intellectual either. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to try to know every single thing, because you're not going to know everything. Because then otherwise you're going to put yourself in a dangerous situation, right? You know, you're going to develop a dangerous habit of trying to be overly intellectual, and you don't want to do that either. You know, you want to balance yourself as much as possible. You know, you want to try to, learn what you can and take it one subject at a time, not try to do them all at once, but one subject at a time, okay? That's all I'm saying. All right. Peace, Rebel. How you doing? Thank you for coming through. Thank y'all for coming through. Thank you. And thank you, Centava. I really appreciate that. Thank you for coming through. I appreciate you. Thank you, Nubian sister. Thank you for coming through. All right. So yeah, shout out to the chat, and shout out to those who have been subscribing to my channel, hitting the notification bell, liking the channel, sharing the channel, all that great stuff. Thank y'all so much. So with that being said, this your girl Tiffany. I'm logging off saying peace and power, elevation. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Ramadan Mubarak to all you beautiful people out there. universal greeting to everybody else. And make sure y'all have a productive day. Make sure y'all take care of yourself. Please be safe. And I will connect with you all later. So that's the topic for today on cults. And also remember, get these books, okay? Get these books for educational purpose. So you can understand how these so-called leaders operate, okay? Get this book, which is called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And get this book right here, which it happened to be one of my personal favorite books, and I ain't read this book in a while. This book right here is called The Laws of Human Nature. Please get this book, because this book deals with the sociological and anthropological and psychological behavior of humans. Please get it if you get a chance. So I know it's messed up. So get this book. And this. All right. All right, then. So this your girl, Tiffany. I'm logging off. Peace. Y'all have a great evening. And until next time.